This isn't a political side. I'm fighting for all your children, not just Republican children, independent children, liberal, all children.
Roberts and like our leadership over there has been so welcoming to like my like not at all secret gay agenda, and so like I feel like I felt like it was, I mean, like maybe it was that way in the past, but I guess like something must have happened in the last like they are turning it around, they're going hard, and then all that like momentum that I felt, like that sense of I don't have to be afraid to like, let's have these two characters kiss, let's in the background start, like I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to.
Are you nervous?
Yes.
How come? Do I look scary? Do you know what I am? No? I'm a drag queen. Have you ever heard of a drag queen before? No? Everybody should try drag at least once. It's really fun.
Even kids?
Yeah.
The dire consequences of the cultural norming of transgenderism is the treatment of children who express confusion about their biological sex. At younger and younger ages, they are being encouraged to take part in what are called transition-affirming treatments that may be emotionally and physically damaging, and in some cases, irreversible. The evidence suggests that advocates of such treatments are more committed to a politically correct agenda than to science, or what is ultimately good for children. Medical treatments often used to treat children with gender dysphoria have not been proven safe. Serious questions remain, including whether such treatments may cause obesity and testicular cancer in males, and decreased bone and muscle growth and infertility in both sexes. No rigorous scientific studies exist to show the long-term physical or psychological effects of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormone treatments on normally developing children. None. The rush by the media, cultural elites, and politically correct medical organizations to normalize and embrace transgenderism has no time for fact-finding. So much for science, and so much for having the best interest of children at heart. After passing through puberty, the majority of young children who originally expressed distress and confusion about their biological sex outgrew it. We're talking 75 to 95% of such children. But with the widespread push to embrace and affirm transgenderism, perhaps it shouldn't be surprising that more children are questioning their gender. In the United Kingdom, for example, a government-affiliated health service dealing in gender identity issues for those under the age of 18 experienced a 2,000% increase in patient referrals since 2009. For children under the age of 6, the referrals have increased by over 400%. Despite what you often hear, scientific evidence shows people are not born trapped in the body of the wrong sex. If transgenderism were biological, then studies of identical twins should prove that. But instead, they showed just the opposite. In a 2013 study of transgender twins, the largest of its kind, only 28% of the time did both identical twins, who contain 100% of the same DNA and are exposed to the same prenatal hormones, identify as transgender. That means that over 70% of the time, what contributed to one of the twins deciding they were the opposite sex of what they were born had nothing to do with biology.
Even if a person doesn't believe that people can change their sex, he would have to pretend they do and call what is obviously a male a woman. The media has accepted this demand, using feminine pronouns for Bruce Jenner, who, in spite of all the makeup, surgery, clothes, and fancy photographs, is still a male. Transgendered persons point to the psychological suffering they endure because people don't accept them. Their suffering is real. They are engaged in a comprehensive denial of reality. Such a denial is hard to sustain, as they must continually shut out the truth. The transgendered delight in passing, being accepted as the opposite sex in public. It hurts to be told that even if they can pass, they are not and can never truly be the other sex.
I mean, it's the very definition of trauma-based mind control. You dip the children in a sewer of sexual perversion and violence and all of that until they disassociate from their identity. And that's precisely what we see in the trans agenda. They say, don't identify with your body. Don't identify with who you are. Disassociate from your identity. And that's precisely what the SRA and MK Ultra victims say, that they're traumatized to the point that they disassociate or even leave their body because the trauma is so intense. And then these other entities enter them. And then they have these multiples, what they call multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder. And then they bring forth these types of role models to teach these people who are now confused and traumatized and full of these other entities, these multiples, to teach them to yield their bodies to them. Yield your bodies to the spirit possession. It doesn't matter if you were Bruce. If something inside you, if you have a Caitlin inside you, what you do is you yield your body to the possession. You allow that entity to possess you now, and you become it. So we see things like this. Oh, well, I was Caitlin inside, so now I'm going to self-mutilate. I'm going to castrate myself. I'm going to do all of these things, and I'm going to surrender my body to the service of this thing inside me, which I have been told I must identify as. And for some reason, and it's just so sad because these young, naive, brainwashed, generation of humans, they buy into it, hook, line, and sinker. Absolutely. They say, okay, I will disassociate from my own identity, and I'll start going around telling everybody, well, I identify as, whatever.
The claim by the activist physicians on the other side is that when a child persistently and consistently insists that he, I'll use for ease of example, that he is really a girl, really, well then that's it. That's how you diagnose born transgender. And that is proof that they have the brain of the opposite sex in their body. And we have studies that have found differences between adult transgender brains and the brains of their biological peers who are not transgender. Okay, so let's unpack that. Number one, the definition of a delusion is a fixed false belief. So if I persistently, consistently insist that I am Margaret Thatcher, or persistently, consistently insist that I am a cat, or a person, I'm an amputee trapped in a normal body, I am delusional. And in fact, there are people who believe they are amputees trapped in a normal body. They are appropriately diagnosed as having body identity integrity disorder. Mouthful, but you get my drift. So if you want to cut off an arm or a leg, you're mentally ill. But if you want to cut off healthy breasts and genitals, oh, then you're transgender and you don't have a mental illness. So that's a completely unscientific, but that's no diagnosis. If a brain were somehow the wrong sex due to factors before birth, every single identical twin would have the same gender identity all the time, but they don't. Why? Identical twins have identical DNA. So if it were in the genes and solely in the genetic, the DNA solely there, then 100% of the time they would both be transgender or both be non-transgender. The best twin study we have shows that the vast majority do not match. If you have one identical twin who's transgender, 72% of the time the other twin is normal. That tells us that it's post-birth effects that primarily impact your identity. Post-birth effects, not pre-birth.
And most of the time, when people identify as transgender, it turns out that there was a sexual abuse history when they were a child, or depression, and they just haven't worked through those issues yet. And the solution is therapy. The solution is soul searching, is not to just put them on cross-sex hormones and start the process of them transitioning. I really fear for what our future is going to be when These very confused children are now adults and leading our country. And that is why, my friends, I am very scared about this transgender, gender non-binary movement. I don't think that it's natural. It's very anti-God. It is anti-biology, and it's destructive to our future. It is destructive to our communities and to our countries on a micro level and on a macro level.
You know, because she
it's probably,
and she eat like a dude because she is a dude.
Well, I also think those drugs mess with your metabolism too.
Yeah, but when you cut off your nuts and you cut off your, you know, that's why men can lose weight faster than females, because we can burn fat easily because of testosterone. When you cut that off, I know another girl, a woman here in the 90s I met, and her name was Jasmine. And Jasmine, she, when I saw Jasmine, I thought she was a real female, black girl. And she said, oh, you know, she told me she was, I said, I couldn't see it because she just had on jeans and a shirt. And this was in the daytime. She said, well, you should have saw me a month ago. I gained so much weight after my castration. She said, I stayed in the house for 3 months because until I lost the weight. She came out, she was fine to death, small waist, everything. But eventually, okay, that was like in 1993. 1997, I saw her. I had moved away and she entered a pageant and they called her name and she came out there, but she was in the plus size. She was competing for the plus. And I said, that's Jasmine. Jasmine was big like Aretha Franklin. That's how big she had gotten when Aretha Franklin at her biggest, because you gain weight once you get castrated. It's very hard to keep weight off, you know, and she had to eventually, now Jasmine, and now you look at 20 years later, she now just had lap band surgery to lose weight because her health was in jeopardy so bad because of the weight she gained. And when she lost the weight, she lost the weight, which was good, but she looked very sick when she lost the weight. That's the sad. It's really, but they look at the money they done made off her. Look at all the money she spent and invested in this since the 90s, you know.
And it's like the lower tiers, right? If you think about compartmentalization, the lower tiers, yeah, it's about money, but they're people that are, you know, on the higher tiers where it's a spiritual thing. It's more than money.
Oh yes,
people that have money, that are billionaires, that are pushing. So they really need more money. What are they invested in? I don't think it's money, right? And then I was talking the other day, it kind of fits into what we're talking about, but how Jeff Bezos, I think he donated like $250 million to Planned Parenthood. And Bill Gates, I think it was like $400 million. And who is the other millionaire? All these millionaire moguls are donating to Planned Parenthood.
Those satanic rituals to go on. They need them to sacrifice the Moloch. They need that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like,
I mean, if you go and you look, I mean, maybe we can do another show. I can direct you to some other stuff where you guys can look deeper into this. But if you kind of like a tree, you take a person and then you kind of go follow their roots and their connections, you will see that they are, eventually lead you to cults.
Yes.
I know this sounds weird. People are like, what? How did you? I'm telling you, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but they're a death cult. And, I kind of think it's kind of apparent from my research that in order to have the power that they have, they have to sacrifice a certain amount of people, to these entities that they are doing business with or whatever, where they're going to get got, right?
Yeah.
So, wars, why do we have all these meaningless wars? You can say, yeah, it's to get resources, but is it really? I mean, I'm sure resources are procured in the wars, but for the most part too, it also, if you look at it from spiritual side, it's a blood feast for demons. And I can't even believe I'm saying this shit, because a few years ago, I wasn't even here,
Yeah,
You know,
but you're here
but
because
I
you're.
challenge people to go look deeper, and maybe I can provide some links for you guys can start if you guys want to nerd out. And if you're, at a point where like, yeah, because you start, you have to, it's like the Socratic method. You ask a question, that question leads to more question, that question leads to more question. You have to keep figuring out, okay, it can't be just about money. What is the bigger agenda here? There's something bigger than just money. Why are so many people being allowed to suffer? Why are there so many people, so many kids that are being allowed to suffer? Why are parents being put in jail? There was that guy that was I've heard a couple cases where they were put in jail because they tried to stop or they tried to kidnap their kids away from their spouse that wanted them to go on hormone blockers.
Yeah.
Why, like, how are people not protecting kids? Like, what is bigger here? I challenge you guys to look into this and go deeper. There were, back in the day, there were cults that would sacrifice kids, and we think that we're above it because we're technologically advanced and we're primitive, but what really happened is that they have really good PR now, and they just figured out how to wrap it in a way, and they figured out how to manipulate us to do it to ourselves for them. Gay people are being used just like black people. We can do a whole nother show on black people too, and the family being broken up, but gay people are being used and manipulated. I'm not saying that you're stupid. I think people are good people. They don't want to believe that this is possible, but you guys are being used to kill yourselves, to sacrifice yourselves to them.
Yes.
Nothing is wrong with you. It's not your fault. I'm not trying to shame you. I'm doing this because I genuinely care. I don't want to see people hurt. I don't want to see people suffer, but I'm putting this challenge to you to look at what I'm saying instead of dismissing me, instead of saying, I'm trying to be sensational, that there is a deeper rabbit hole here when it comes to all of this stuff. Do you want to?
Because you're dealing with satanic people. You're dealing with, when you got, like you said, it's bigger than money because these people got enough money. They got more money than they can spend in their lifetime. And I talk about these elites a lot on my show. I said they've done everything that you could possibly do on this planet because they have the money to do it. They're bored. So they have to get off into sick shit, and that's why they into this. And then if they into the occult and they fail, see, I don't believe in they have any power, but they get power out of death. They get power out of creating these psyops, and innocent people are dying in them, like 9/11. That was a sacrifice, a human sacrifice. Then they have a war where they lose even more people die in this war, the Iraq War.
Yeah.
That's souls that they feed off that energy of death. So then they go on to the next, and then you have this whole psyop of COVID. Let's put out a vaccine because we put the mask on them, and hopefully we can get enough of them to come to the hospital where we can kill them, because we're not gonna let no one come in and watch us kill them in the hospital. The killing fields. See, those deaths.
Pay them.
That exactly what VERSTYNE is saying is that it's deeper than money. They get something out of it it's a death cult, death culture. They like that. And that's another reason why the crime is the way it is. They like that. They want that. They want that. That's why they letting people still wear masks. The criminals love it. So they can go out here and do whatever the hell they want because they can kill somebody. Hell, that's another death.
Yeah.
We got more people dying, and then Black people are doing it to each other. So of course that's how they definitely gonna keep that going. They will report, Black people there are mass shootings every day in Black neighborhoods, but you never hear about them because they want it to happen. They're not gonna stop that. It's no gun control when it comes to that.
They love it. They're loving it, and then they want to act like they care. When one guy gets killed by a cop, but kids are getting shot in the streets every day that are just outside playing ball in the communities, but they want to act like they care about people. The medical industry is the third leading cause of death, and that's according to their records. Conservatively, I would say that they're the first, And this
Yeah.
is,
I agree.
I'll put those links in the bottom. Death by medicine, these are unnecessary surgeries, properly prescribed medications, not even, and they're 1 to 3, right? But we go to them for help. There's a really good movie that somebody did. I'll put that in the links. It's called The Cult of Medics. Have you seen that?
No, it's called.
Yeah, it's The Cult of Medics. It's free. It's you can just go to cultofmedics.com. But it kind of explains that too. Gnosis TV just did a fabulous presentation talking about Freemasonry, Zionism, and Nazism, and how they basically come from the same seed. And it basically links these elites back to occultists. And this has been going for years. Another good resource is Fritz Springmeier's How to Create an Illuminati Mind Control Slave, where he basically describes, I don't know if I said the name of that book. I meant to bring it. I mean, I have it. I meant to have it on my desk so I can just hold it up, but I'll put a picture of it up later. He describes the process, and he also wrote The Bloodlines of the Illuminati. So all those resources that I mentioned are really good resources if you want to start looking into this stuff, so it makes more sense. And honestly, it's very dark, it's very disturbing. When I first started researching this stuff, I would get really depressed and sad. When you watch that stuff, make sure you have something that's going to bring your energy and your spirit up after you do it. Go dancing, listen to music, watch comedy, do something. Because if you're a human being that has a heart, it's going to get to you. But I am very grateful to know this information too, because I'm not in the dark, and a lot of stuff makes a hell of a lot more sense now that I know this stuff. And it's not as confusing. And I think when you're in a state of confusion, ignorance, people can get over on you. But if you really understand how dark this is, it's not your fault. You've been manipulated. You've been used. Straight and gay people, we've all been manipulated and used, because they're mistaking your kindness for weakness. They're taking advantage of your pure soul, which is good. That's what's going on. Don't feel stupid. I'm not trying to beat anybody up or call people sheep for not knowing this. I had to figure this out. I was a sheep about a lot of this stuff at one time, or ignorant to a lot of this stuff. It took me a while to get here, because I thought, I would see people talk about this stuff when I first started Truth or Talk, and I'm just like, all right, that's too much. Like Alex Jones would talk about this stuff in the hour. It's too much. Like, I can understand some of the corruption in the corporations, and he's right about that. But I'm like, when he starts talking about the interdimensional demons and stuff, just like Star Wars, right? George Lucas, they created a cult out of Star Wars. Star Wars is like a religion now. But if you look deeply into it, Joseph Campbell, who wrote The Power of Myth, was actually George Lucas's mentor. And he realizes through art, this is why the Illuminati are all up in Hollywood, all up in the arts. So they've taken over the arts. The power of myth and art and creation is powerful. It's divine, and they cannot let people run free with that. They cannot let Christopher Titus have that show that I was talking about, where two dysfunctional people get together and they actually turn their lives around. They want you to think that if you fucked up, you're going to be that way for the rest of your life. If you were a stripper or a gangbanger or did drugs, that you're going to have to do that forever. There's no way out. That's how they keep you enslaved. But the minute you find out that, you can turn your life around, or you can be better than you are, or you have some hope, even the slightest modicum of hope of being able to do that, they have to shut that down. So just remember that. Sorry.
Oh, you're right. Well, you're right. I think that people need to understand that's, I'm glad you're giving them the resources to go look into this, because, and then just think about it, and then because they like to label something as conspiracy because they want you to not think. That's a way for you to not think and stay programmed and not apply critical thinking to it. These agendas are big and they go deep, and they are very sinister because the people who are doing it are Satanists.
Yeah.
They're demonic. So there are layers to it. But
there are layers here because not everybody is on the same level of Satanism, I don't think, but
yes.
It's compartmentalized.
Yes.
So
and then there are the useful idiots that work for the Satanists that don't know they're working for the Satanists.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have that. It's just like the gay people, this gay agenda. You are being used by the Satanists and you don't even know it. You're being used by the pedophiles and they don't even know it. You know, and that's how they do the whole thing. That's how it works, you know. But once you know it and you recognize it, and then if you're able to understand it and not participate, that's when it becomes a problem for them. And that's what this awakening is about. And we're trying, and that's what hopefully we awaken some people with this, and that they think about this and understand that, you know, this is about humanity. It's about all of us. And we're trying to basically salvage it and not let them destroy it. And the truth is the light, and the truth will set you free. And the light always outshines darkness. And that's why these dark people can't stand people like us. So I'm about to pray on this. I'm about to pray on this live stream. I mean, on this after we do this, because this is pretty effective, truth. So, so it's gonna be, you know, because you have to understand it's gonna be effective. So we're going to have to pray on this because the demons are going to come up after this, you know. So
I'm fucking put them in I know jujitsu now, so I'm just kidding.
So see
come at me, motherfucker. I'll put you in a fucking rear naked choke.
Over us. They don't have no power over us, but we know they're going to try to attack us through other ways of, you know, and that's the thing about it, you know, other kind of ways. But I think this is.
We also have to know too that we do have protection, and there are also entities that will look out for us because we're doing this as well.
Yes, absolutely.
We can't just be like thinking, oh, they're coming to get us. You know, we gotta think.
No,
about
I know that.
that.
I mean, they can only do so much, you know. But we have entities that look out for us, and we know God looks out for us. And you know,
and if we don't, like, you know, when you come across this information, it's so unbelievable and it's so detrimental that you have to tell people. Like, how do you not know this stuff and not tell people? You have to at least give people informed consent and freedom of choice. And because a lot of this stuff is being censored and they're manipulating people don't really have that, you know. So, you know, they're going to try and censor it. You know, I don't care if you make copies of if you guys want to make copies of this and link it back to me, I would appreciate that. But make sure that this gets out there because it's do or die now. We're at the apex. You know, we need to turn this stuff around. And the Georgia Guidestones just got blown up, which I normally would be like, all right, I don't really think that monuments should be destroyed because I think people need to remember. But at the same time, I look at it as being a spell that's being broken, because if you look at one of the Guidestones, it says keep the population under 500 million. It's basically talking about how they want to depopulate the planet. And it's interesting because nobody knows who built them. It was like a secret, right?
Yeah.
There's a good, I'll put this in the notes too. Dark Clouds Over Elberton that kind of gets into the nitty gritty about the Guidestones. Mm-hmm. And if you guys want to check that out. But I have faith that this is gonna, you know, turn in our favor, but we need to do the work. Mm-hmm. And we need to educate ourselves and we need to become strong, because without information and without actually knowing what we're up against, we're not going to be successful.
Yeah. And we're all in this together because we have to be, because we're all on the same level. They're trying to kill us all. Nobody's removed. As much as people try to act like, you know, you're not one of them, you're one of us. You're a peasant. Yes. And that's what they look at us as peasants.
Yes.
And peasants have to come together and stop the division and the nonsense and stop grabbing a hold to every banana they throw in the monkey cage for us to fight over it. You know, we gotta say, no, we can't, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to just, okay, and then they laugh at us though. They get a kick out of it. They say, now watch this. They'll do something and watch the debate, watch the argument. And I just sit back, I don't get on them emotional roller coasters. I know what it is.
Yeah.
They're doing. Yeah, because that's what they want us to do. Is if we keep fighting each other, we can't focus on what they're trying to do. But once we stop fighting each other and say, wait a minute, who started this? Oh, it's them. Oh, let's go get them. And that's coming.
Exactly. It's not about black or white.
They're doing that in the Netherlands right now. So, and in Italy right now, people are saying, wait a minute, who, what? Oh, we know. And then it's game time. So I do have hope for that. So.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's not about black or white, male or female, tall or short, old or young.
Yeah.
It's about world domination.
Yeah.
And it's, like 99% of us, we're together, but it's that small percent that pits us against each other.
Yeah.
But once we unify, it's fucking over for them. So.
Yeah. And they don't want that.
Yeah. they're trying everything to keep us with them. So. Thank you so much, Axe.
Thank you.
This is awesome. I can't wait for this to air.
Me too.
All right. And I'll put your links below this so people know where to find you. And
it's truth.com. I'm the only Axe Truth in the world. It's very, very easy. So, but
are you sure?
Only Axe Truth. The only knows, the knows that knows. But this was an honor to do it. I can't wait till it airs and get out there and do what it needs to do. So, and we're gonna. I'm sorry. What? Tell them about. We're gonna be back for a question and Q&A.
Yeah. So I'm gonna, cut this up. I think we went off some tangents. I'm gonna try and keep it to the subject, put some clips in it, and then maybe a week after I post this, we will have a live. We'll have a call-in show for people that want to talk about it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm excited. So, all right. Till next time, you guys. Peace, truth, love. Bye-bye. Mwah.
Peace out.
All right. Wait, hold on. Let me stop it. Thank you for watching our special presentation. Humanity is being manipulated and preyed upon by oligarchs who not only want to destroy human beings, but all life as we know it. We are taking a stand to provide you with empowering information so you can defeat these monsters and help turn the tide. Truth or Talk is sponsored by you, the people. This presentation took over 80 hours to create. If you would like to see more of these, you can support us by purchasing merchandise, donating, or becoming a member on our website. To stay informed and empowered, join our newsletter below. Thank you for watching, and peace, truth, and love.